All right, Mitch, how we doing?
I am great, Garrett. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We're back on air for the first time since November 21st, and as we're recording today, it's December the 12th.
Time flies.
So it does. We've had a few things happen, like Thanksgiving, since the last time we recorded, but it's been a minute. So tell us about Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was good. We, Carrie and I guess it's been over 4 months now. We bought a house in August, and we got to host some family for Thanksgiving. We did like a Thanksgiving brunch that we hosted, and Carrie put a lot of work into cooking and setting up a nice charcuterie board and decorating. It's like she did a fantastic job, and I helped just a little bit. But that was fun, and we had just kind of a low-key Thanksgiving dinner at her parents' house that night. We got to watch some football. I love Thanksgiving, and so it's probably my favorite holiday. Sometimes I feel convicted, like Christmas should be your favorite holiday because it's about, or Easter, you know.
Yeah.
But I love Thanksgiving for all the F's, family, food, football. So it's a good time. Now, you stayed in Florida, but you were a little out of the county, right?
Yeah, we went a little away. I was laughing about Thanksgiving being your favorite holiday. I don't know if you've seen I think I showed it to you, the Nate Bargatze SNL George Washington sketch. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
And
you sent me a clip of it.
In the second one, so he's done two now because the first one was so well received. So they did another one, and in the second one, he's like, "In our free country, we will have a holiday called President's Day." and one of the other guys was like, "And how shall we celebrate President's Day?" And Nate goes, "Well, by buying a mattress, of course." That's one of my favorite lines in the second sketch.
That's funny.
By buying a mattress, of course. So all the dumb like car sales and mattress sales that go like on Labor Day and President's Day and everything. Like, oh man, cracks me up.
That's good.
But yeah, for Thanksgiving we went to Oviedo, which our church here, our podcast studio here is in Leesburg, Florida, kind of northwest of Orlando. Oviedo is northeast of Orlando, generally speaking. And that's where I grew up. That's where all my family is. That's where most of Hannah's family is. And so we went to Oviedo for 4 days and did Thanksgiving with one family on Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving with the other family on Black Friday. And it was great, actually. The kids had a great time. So, we, for our listeners don't know, I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And yes, you heard that right. And, it's always interesting kind of packing all them up and seeing if they'll sleep well and do well with all the, new food and overstimulation with all the people and sleeping on air mattresses and whatever, but they did great. And they love swimming, and both my parents and my in-laws have pools. And it's not freezing in Florida, so I don't know where you're listening from, but it's probably much colder wherever you're listening from. And so we showed up, and my oldest was like, "I want to swim," and I was like, "I don't, I don't want to swim at all." But they were pretty insistent, and I was like, "Yeah, what the heck?" So like it's, it was like 72 outside, which is beautiful, but like you swim when it's like 95 outside, and so we got in the pool and it was cold. They loved it. And then the next day they were like, "I want to swim again," and I was like, "No, that was good." we're probably one and done for this trip.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. Thanksgiving was great. We're already looking forward to Christmas. 13 days away. Probably doing something similar for Christmas time. So
yeah, right after Thanksgiving, I got to put up lights on our house. My first time. Maybe there's some shame in that too, because my older brother would mainly put the lights up on the house growing up with living with my mom, but. First time I ever putting lights up, so I'm not big on heights. Our roof is not super tall, but I had to get up there, and I was kind of just in the center, just kind of doing sprints back and forth, trying to get my confidence up and get my balance right. But then I'm like crawling up to the edge of the house and nailing some nails in. And
wait, so you were on the roof looking down?
On top of the roof looking down.
You weren't on a ladder looking up?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I felt a little more, not big on heights in either direction. So standing up on the ladder, because a couple parts would be like the front of the house where there's like the classic like tip and it slants down both ways. I don't know if I could have reached that from the ladder. So I was like, let me just get up there and put the nails in we need to. That wasn't so bad once I got used to it. It took a few days because we like ran out of lights and ran out of,
Yeah.
the first set of lights was broken the second time I went up there, and then we got lights up and had to put more, and so it took a few days. So each day I'd be nervous getting back up there, and then I would just kind of run around and just do it, and it worked out. So, but I would get like in my knees and my hands and stuff, like a little bit of a fiberglass kind of feel from the shingles on the roof. And so I had to kind of deal with that for a couple of days. But it was a fun time. Got lights up. Carrie's happy.
All right.
We got a Christmas tree. We decorated it. We're all Christmassy. It looks like Christmas threw up on our house.
That's a good way to put it. We don't have lights on our house this year, but we need to do it next year. Our kids love the lights, like walking through the neighborhood because it gets dark so early now. And so like when we walk, they love looking at all the lights and the snowmen and whatever. And they're like, "Dad, the snowman has a carrot on his nose." And like that, the carrot is his nose. So Hannah and I, we like to buy like Thanksgiving and Christmas and like holiday decor and stuff like the day after the holiday in preparation for next year because it's super cheap. Like that's how we got our Christmas tree that's in our living room right now. It's a fake one, but we use it every year. We got it on December 26th, like 5 years ago, for like 90% off.
Oh my gosh!
And
that's amazing.
So like that's what we're planning on. We tried to do it with. We actually failed this year with Thanksgiving stuff because we went too late.
Tried to buy turkey the day after Thanksgiving.
We didn't quite go. We went like a week after, and it was just way too late. We should have gone on Black Friday, but we're gonna go on like December 26th. Of this year to get some lights and stuff for next year. And you can just get them for pennies on the dollar. So that's what we'll do. We don't have any lights this year, but we'll do them next year. I thought about like, there are companies that you can pay, like you rent the lights from them and you pay them to put them up and take them down.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so it's just money that I don't want to spend. But like you can like hire a company to say, I want lights on my house from December 1st to December 26th. These are the kind of lights I want. And they just, he's outside, so you don't have to let them in. They just come, put them up, plug them in, and then come take them down whenever you want them taken down. Oh. And you rent the lights, pay for the labor, whatever, and you don't ever have to do anything. Or store them throughout the year, which is nice too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I've considered that, but the price is just so silly to me. Like, why would I do that when I can?
Like $1 per light.
I don't know what it is actually.
It's probably more than that actually.
It's several. It's like hundreds of dollars. Like you'd be spending hundreds of dollars every year for that, which for some people that's worth it. But for me it's not. So, but anyways, lots happened in the sports world in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, it has.
You barely beat me in a fantasy football game. Barely.
You're not exaggerating by barely. It was a decimal. I mean, I think it was by 0.2 or 0.36 or something like that. Which actually was very significant, really, for both of us. If you would have won, you would have almost moved down in the draft, even though you would have stayed in your same position. But unless you won because you scored like even one more point.
Yeah, it was kind of best case scenario for both of us, I guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, because I didn't know our division standing, so I ended up ranked 3, but because I'm top in my division, I get a bye week, which is pretty cool. I'm in 4 fantasy leagues, and one of them I missed the playoffs, and I'm going to be like 4th in the draft, which I'm kind of okay with. But then the other 3, I got a bye week, and so 75% of my fantasy teams are doing well enough to get a first-round bye, which only 2 teams get in a 12-team league. So
not to brag.
Yeah, not to brag. But I'm worried that I'm just going to, the bye week, it's not like your players get to rest, So the frustrating thing is seeing all of your guys do amazing. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I would have smoked my opponent anyways if I didn't have a bye. And then maybe you lose the next week because they don't do the same thing. And so
it's not like a bye week in real life where they're like getting healthy. It's just like a guarantee that you're not going to lose kind of bye week. Yeah, is really all it is.
So Brendan, talking to him about fantasy football, he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to rest some of my guys." And like, dude, Brendan, you're on a win streak. He's like, "Yeah, man, I've been coaching them up and talking to the guys like they're really working together." So dumb.
This guy, but it was good. I mean, I'm pretty much done in that league. Like. Secured that number 1 draft pick. You're moving on to the playoffs. In the student ministry league, I'm in the playoffs. I'm projected to lose round 1, but I'm in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens there.
You got anybody tonight? Rams 49ers?
I do have several players tonight. I think I made some subs. You said it's Rams 49ers?
Yep.
Yeah, I have Purdy. I have. Let me just pull it up. Why not? What are we doing here?
If I win that league, it's because somebody early in the season dropped Puka, and I picked him up off waivers.
That's crazy.
And he had like 42 points or 42 last week.
That's crazy.
Yep.
I'm starting Tua, so he's not. I have Purdy on the bench. Is that the right move?
The Dolphins are playing who?
Houston. So Houston's kind of.
That's what I said. The Dolphins are playing who? Houston.
Whoa.
Yeah. The Rams' defense is okay. I would probably go with Tua.
I have Cooper Kupp.
Oh, you got Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably have a good game tonight.
I have. Let me see. I guess that's it because I have Purdy on my bench, and then I have. Yeah, I guess that's it. I'm thinking of the other league where I have some other players that are playing tonight, but that doesn't matter. So yeah, I have Cooper Kupp tonight. I like Tua. He's been a little more consistent, oddly enough, than Brock Purdy.
The 49ers just have had a tragic year, man.
Yes, that's part of it.
I mean, they almost won the Super Bowl, and now they're 5-6. If they lose tonight, they're not mathematically out, but this is kind of a you better win out or else. So if they lose tonight, they might be done for the year.
Yeah, and I think I don't follow the Dolphins very closely, but it seems like the only major injury they've suffered is Tua, and Tua's back. I feel like they're pretty healthy otherwise.
I think Hill and Waddle get a little banged up here and there, but they're pretty healthy.
So yeah, that'll be fun.
They could actually sneakily win that game.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta consider that one.
Let's see. The Jaguars, I couldn't care less right now. The Patriots are, what are they, the third worst?
Yeah, Pats and Jags have the same record.
Okay.
But the Patriots, the seeding for the non-playoff teams is funny because the tiebreak is your strength of schedule, but it's if you have an easier strength of schedule, you get the tiebreak over someone with the same record because it's like it shows you're even worse because you've had easier opponents and you've still lost that many games.
I see.
So you would think the harder strength of schedule, you get the benefit.
Right.
But you actually benefit from having an easier schedule and still being bad.
Which would be so our division really stinks this year. It's like, would the Jags have a softer strength of schedule?
They don't. Currently, the Pats have like the rest of the year. They have some tough opponents, so it might shake up. I don't know at this point how much the percentage can be moved, but they have a pretty significant gap in strength of schedule with the teams that are around them.
Because I feel like the Titans, the Colts, and the Texans are all, and the Jags for that matter, are all underperforming.
Yeah.
So I feel like just our division as a whole stinks.
Well, the Pats have the Dolphins and Jets only have like 3 or 4 wins each.
That's true.
The Bills are good, but I thought the Pats had a pretty tough schedule. So the strength of schedule thing is interesting. But there are 2 teams with only 2 wins, and so I need the Raiders and the Giants to win a game and the Pats to keep losing so we can get the number 1. And then apparently we need O-linemen so bad that we just need to stick and pick one wherever we're at. I think if you're top 3, you can get a haul, and it's worth moving down.
Yeah. Especially this year, I think.
Yeah.
But, the Jags stink. I quit. I haven't even watched the games. Like, it's that bad.
And they won last week.
I know. But for what? Like, we won for what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's when the Cowboys, did you see how the Cowboys lost on Monday?
I did not.
Or not technically the play that, like the final play of the game, but they were going toe-to-toe with the Bengals, which is just 2 teams that have pretty good rosters but have had tragic years.
Right.
But I've never seen this before, and it go down quite like this, that they end up losing basically because of this. The Bengals were punting. I think they were tied or down or something. 4th quarter, the Bengals punted, and the Cowboys blocked the punt. A guy rushed in, and he tipped it. So he made contact with the punt, blocked it, but it still traveled a few yards down the field. And so at that point, when the Bengals touch it, it's dead ball and you get it back. But a Cowboy, after it was blocked, tried to pick it up and run with it and muffed it. The Bengals recovered, and so they got the ball back. Whoa. And then they ended up scoring, and that, like I said, that wasn't the last drive, but they ended up losing the game, and that was a very significant thing that happened late.
Oh.
But somebody was like shouting the guy out, like, "Hey man, like props to you for securing our draft pick." Like, like my mentality this year is like, I just want to keep losing because we're not gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the guy's like, "Hey, I'm glad that guy was securing our draft positioning."
Huh.
But the players were pretty bummed about it.
Wow. I didn't watch it. I saw the result like in fantasy, but I didn't watch the game. In college football, big news for UCF. So, well, it was kind of a roller coaster of the past couple weeks. So, like, we lost our game on Black Friday, which we should have won, but we lost the game on Black Friday. The next day, so the day after Black Friday, Gus Malzahn, head coach for the past 4 years of UCF, accepts the job as offensive coordinator for FSU out of the blue. So it was kind of like anticipated something's going to happen with Gus. We're going to fire him. He's going to just retire and ride off in the sunset. He'll go be a head coach somewhere else, whatever. Who knows? OC at FSU was not on anyone's radar. To me, it makes sense because I think there's a slight trend. I don't know if I'm ready to call it like a movement, but of old head coaches that don't know how to play in this new, or don't know how to like operate in this new NIL era, kind of moving into other positions that aren't head coaches.
Yeah,
because they just want to coach. They're tired of all the money and recruiting and retention and transfer portal and all that stuff. And they just want to coach, and so they're moving out of head coaching positions into stuff like this. Like, to me, it makes sense for Gus, and he gets to stay in Florida, so he gets to maintain some of his Florida contacts and recruitments and whatever. So a little bit out of left field, but when you reflect on it, it kind of makes sense, whatever. And the fan base was ready to move on. Like, I was ready to move on from Gus. It was kind of a failed experiment.
Yeah.
8 different starting quarterbacks in 4 years. Like, the quarterback room was just a mess. He kept trying to, it's like he won in 2014 at Auburn with Cam Newton. And ever since he got to UCF, he came to UCF from Auburn. And ever since he got here, he's been trying to find another Cam Newton. And he doesn't exist.
So he's been there for 10 years?
No, he's been here for 4.
Okay.
But so he was at Auburn for a long time. His one and only national championship is in 2014 with Cam. And then he was at Auburn for a few more years after that. We actually beat them in the Peach Bowl.
Okay.
In 2017 or 16. Anyways, so we played Auburn when Gus was the head coach and beat them. And he came to us a couple years later. But he's been trying to find another Cam Newton at UCF, and there's not another one out there.
So 8 quarterbacks in 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not just like they kept getting hurt. Like he would just through the season just switch it and try to figure something else out.
Yeah, there's a couple injuries. Like I will admit, there's a couple injuries. But it was mostly like just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and nothing was sticking because I didn't even agree with like the approach to begin with. So JRP was the closest we came. Like, we had a 9-win season with JRP. He was a Cam Newton-esque player. He got drafted. Well, he didn't get drafted, but he got picked up by the Steelers. Now he's with the Seahawks, whatever. So JRP came close, but even JRP was a fake quarterback. He wasn't even a real quarterback. Anyways, so we had to move fast in the head coaching position. We hired Scott Frost, which, if you're unfamiliar with the college football world, means nothing to you. But Scott Frost was the head coach at UCF when we went undefeated in 2017. And he left us to go to his alma mater, Nebraska, where he played quarterback in the 90s. All his family's in Nebraska. It's like, it made sense. It really stunk to like lose him. But everyone could see, like, all right, it makes sense why he's going back there. That's where his family is. That's where he played, blah, blah, blah. Failed. Like, did terribly. Left there and has been with the Rams under Sean McVay for the past several years.
Yeah, that's a good guy to be under.
Exactly. And so we're bringing back probably, like, arguably one of our best head coaches that we've ever had. The fan base is stoked. And he's been under a great NFL coach for the past several years. He's probably learned some new things even in the past couple of years. And so we're pretty pumped to bring back Scott Frost. And I think he's really kind of reigniting some excitement in the UCF fan base. So there were some other names out there, like the Liberty head coach was actually in the mix. The Tulane head coach was in the mix, whatever. But Scott Frost, his name started to come up over the past week, and it started to come up more and more, and the news broke that he was the guy, and everyone's pretty excited about it. So
okay.
Anyways,
you know who UNC is hiring as the head coach?
Yes, I heard that yesterday. How do you feel about that?
Bill Belichick. Well, what's more disturbing is that his girlfriend is a college student.
What?
There might have been a connection. She was at UNC, but now she's going somewhere else. But he has a girlfriend who is a college student.
Does Bill have Does he have does he have a previous marriage or two, or does he have kids?
Yeah, he has kids.
Okay.
So he's not married anymore.
He probably has kids older than his girlfriend.
He's got to. He's like 60 or 70 something.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah.
How old is Bill Belichick? Come on, Siri, talk to me. Dude, 72.
72. How old is his girlfriend?
Oh, I don't know if Siri knows that.
Oh.
I can't even ask her with a straight face. How old is Bill Belichick's girlfriend? It just brought up a bunch of articles like, who is Bill Belichick's girlfriend?
Oh.
Bill Belichick and Linda something. I don't know. Siri doesn't know. Sorry.
She's got to be in it for his looks.
Sheesh. Yeah, I don't know. I heard that. I just don't. It feels unnecessary to me. Like, why does he need to be a coach again anywhere?
I thought you meant dating a 21-year-old.
Well, okay. And moving on from that, that's ridiculous. But the head coaching thing, like, why does he need to coach again at all? He's 72, and why does he need to coach again in college? Like, just be an analyst and just ride off in the sunset. Like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I definitely thought he would go NFL if he coached again, because I'm sure, at least from the chatter, what people say, he might have a desire to prove that he can do something without Tom Brady.
I guess so. Yeah.
I think the narrative swung that way when, Brady left New England, and then the Patriots missed the playoffs, and Brady won a Super Bowl, and so everybody right away was like, it was always all Brady, it was never Belichick, and I just think that's silly. Brady joined a team that was a QB away from being a superstar team, and he had probably his worst season of his career, his final year in New England. They played a wild card game for the first time in 10 years and lost, and the Patriots weren't going to win the Super Bowl if he stayed instead of going to Tampa. I think people are seeing what they want to see there. But, but I mean, he didn't really quickly turn around. So, I mean, it's got to be both. If you're like, was it Belichick's coaching or Brady's, not really athletic abilities, but QB abilities.
Okay,
anyways,
okay. Just slide that in there.
Yeah, I could beat him in basketball, but definitely
he's not an athlete. I don't know about that.
So, anyways, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool. It's not really that interesting at all. But the Patriots quarterback Drake May is from UNC, so Belichick's going to the college that our QB just came from.
Interesting.
So there's almost a connection there if you want to make that. But
is that just a coincidence, you think, or what?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels unnecessary, but I did hear that yesterday. So
it'll get me to watch a little more college ball. See how his coaching goes.
Last bit of sports, then we should probably talk about ministry.
Maybe.
The Orlando Magic never ceased to impress me, this season at least. So we had a chance to go, Hannah and I went to a Magic game this past Sunday night, the Magic Suns game. And I've told you about this game off air several times. I wanted to go
Sound like I'm hearing it for the first time.
Yeah. Just play dumb. I wanted to go to a game, obviously to see the Magic, but also I wanted to see a good opponent. I don't just want to go watch Magic Wizards or whatever. I wanted to go see LeBron or Curry or somebody play. But all those games were like tickets to go see LeBron play, $300. Just ridiculous. And so I was looking at all the other teams, and then the Suns games were to me underpriced. It's Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and all these guys, but Kevin Durant, arguably top. I mean, well, everyone has their own opinions, but top 12, top 15, top 20 player of all time. And
I think that's pretty unanimous.
Anyways.
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I can. I think he's top 15. There's people that are arguing like he's outside the top 20 at this point. But anyways, but regardless, like the tickets shouldn't be as cheap as they were to go see him. So I bought those tickets. After I bought them, Paolo gets hurt, which is our superstar in Orlando. And then last week, news breaks that Kevin Durant is hurt. Nothing serious, but he's not going to play in Orlando. And I was like, come on, man. No Paolo, no Durant. I was like, well, at least I'll get to see Franz and Devin Booker. And then the night before the Suns game, news breaks that Franz is out for like 6 weeks. And so I was like,
you were in denial for a few minutes?
I was. I still kind of am, but I definitely was. And so I was like, should we even go? Should we sell the tickets? This is crazy. I was like, no, we're going to go. It's fine. But we're going to get blown out by 30, whatever. And we won the game.
Yeah, you told me Sunday morning, you're like, we're going to score like 50 points, but we're still going to go to the game.
We scored 115, 115 to 110. And I'm just shocked because, like, Franz and Paolo are, like, the offense runs through those guys. Those guys averaged, well, when they're both on the court together, it's like 25 apiece. But, like, when it's just one of them out there, they're averaging 33 points. Like, Franz was averaging 33 points in the 12 games leading up to the Suns game. So I was like, I don't know how. Like, when Paolo goes down, it's like, all right, Franz, it's your turn. You know, when Franz goes down, it's like, all right, Paolo, it's your turn. In the past 3 or 4 years, we've never played without both of them, like, at the same time. So it's like, what do we do now? And then we won the game. We crushed them. I think the margin of victory was only 5, but I think it was a bigger win than that.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. Really fun. And then the Cup game Tuesday night, we almost won that game too in Milwaukee. So, anyways, just I'm very high on the Magic. I've been a Magic fan my whole life, but very high on the Magic right now.
Yeah.
If Paolo can come back by Christmas, if Franz can come back, you know, before the All-Star break or something, and we can make a late February, March, April push, like, I'm pretty high on the Magic right now. So,
one more thing about sports. FA girls basketball.
Yeah.
The varsity team.
Basically the same as the Magic.
Yeah. Same as the Magic without Paolo and Franz. The FA girls varsity basketball team is 4-1, and they do not have a history of having good girls basketball. Carrie would know specifically this like stat because she's the one who told me the other day, but I'm just gonna pretend I know. It's something like only a few times in the last 20 years, or like they haven't in the 20 years. Like, it's rare that they ever get 2 or more wins. And they're 4-1 right now. So
2 or more wins, like, on the season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's either it's been 10 or 20 years since they've done that, or 10 or 20 years ago is the only, or there's only a few times in the last 10 or 20 years that they've had more than 2, something like that. So hasn't historically been a successful program, but they're crushing it right now.
That's great.
Gotta shout them out.
Yeah. That's actually really fun. Like, winning is fun. like season after season of, like, really bad losing records is no fun, but winning is fun. That's cool. That's cool. All right. In the past 3 weeks, what's happened in ministry? I think we talked about this a little bit off air before jumping into it. I want to kind of recap the past couple weeks, and then I want to maybe take a little bit of a deeper dive on our current sermon series and talk through a few things. But in November, I don't want to say it was uneventful because that's not true. But we talked about our November 20th midweek message, All Hands on Deck, in our last podcast episode. And then the Sundays that bookended Thanksgiving, we're up both Sundays, before and after Thanksgiving. We're up compared to the Sundays that bookended Thanksgiving last year in 2023. So attendance-wise, both from students and adults, I was encouraged by that. I think we all should be. And then December the 4th was First Wednesday Prayer, a monthly prayer gathering at our church that our students attend. So we don't have like a traditional midweek student service on those nights. We go to that prayer gathering. So that's what we did on the 4th. And then let's see. I'm thinking student ministry right now. We can get to college ministry as well in a second. On the 8th, which was a Sunday, 8th of December, a couple days ago, we had a pretty big, not just big in terms of like attendance, but a pretty big in terms of content volunteer meeting on Sunday morning. So we have our monthly volunteer meeting with our downtown students volunteers. And that happened 4 days ago. But we covered some, well, first of all, we like baked a bunch of cool stuff for them, and we got them some Christmas gifts. We tried to like do some extra stuff because it's around the Christmas season for this meeting. But we covered some pretty big topics with them in terms of 2 significant changes that we're making to student ministry. So firstly, we are changing our curriculum strategy. And starting January 5th, which is the first Sunday in 2025, we will begin using the Gospel Project for Students, which is a curriculum I would recommend to anybody who's listening. The past 2.5 years, we've just been self-producing our Sunday morning discussion guides. We've been writing them ourselves. But starting on the 5th, we will use the Gospel Project for Students, which is by Lifeway. It's a 3-year curriculum that works through the Bible. So Genesis to Revelation for 3 years. And the current cycle just started in August. So we're not going to go back and start from the beginning. We're just going to jump right in. So I think we'll be in like Exodus or something in January. But that's really good curriculum. And I think it's going to be an upgrade from what we've been doing the past 2.5 years. But what I'm most excited about is that kids, students, and parents, all those groups on Sunday mornings across all 3 of our campuses, which, by the way, we're one church in 3 locations. So starting on the 5th, kids, students, and parents groups on Sunday mornings at all 3 of our campuses will be in the exact same lesson of the Gospel Project every single Sunday. I'm pretty stoked about that. That's a really cool thing in terms of family ministry, that we can send our families home having talked about the same stuff in their groups. Because, like, here's the dilemma that, like, we face in our household right now is we have a 3-year-old in well, we send all our kids to preschool ministry, but our 3-year-old's the most conversant. We have a 3-year-old. She comes home from church. We all come home from church, and we eat Subway for lunch on Sundays. So we're eating our Subway, and we say, May, what'd you guys talk about at church today? And she says, well, Jesus. That's good. And I was like, anything in particular? Like, like anything that Jesus did or said? And she was like, just Jesus. And I was like, okay. And it would be so much better if I knew that, preschool kids, students, parents, like, they're all in the same curriculum. So I come home with my kids, and I don't have to say, what did you talk about today? And, like, investigate and trust that they're remembering it right or whatever. But I can say, hey, today we talked about the 10 Commandments. What'd you think about this one?
Yeah.
Or, hey, today we talked about, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. We talked about Jacob wrestling with God. What do you think about that? I think that's going to be a huge, huge step forward in terms of family ministry at our church. So, I'll pause there. You have any thoughts on that move, or how that was received by our volunteers? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. We've used, and just in the past with our ministries here, we've used like the Gospel Project and stuff like that, and it's always good content. And so it'll be nice to, we kind of plan it out well ahead anyways, but we'll have an idea down the road of what curriculum is coming up and stuff like that. And I guess I didn't think it would go bad. I didn't think too much about how it would go, but it seemed very, like, widely accepted, like, positively by our mentors. Like, they loved hearing that church-wide and campus-wide, we're all going to be doing the same stuff. So I've never had an issue with that. I'd anticipate maybe somebody would for some reason, but they seem to really like that, and because we have a lot of parents in the room, and so they like the family model. So it was well received, and I'm excited to start doing that.
Same. Yeah, I try to give everybody a heads up. Like, I think I told you this too off air. Like, personally, just like my personal leadership style. Like, I don't like to walk into a meeting. I'm talking about meetings that I'm not leading, that I'm attending. I don't like to walk into a meeting and just have, like, a decision dropped on me in terms of, like, hey, here's the options. What do you think we should do? And decide on the spot. I like to have a little bit of a heads up, like, hey, tomorrow in the meeting, we're going to discuss this. Here are some of the options we're going to discuss. Be prepared to discuss these things and help make a decision on it. Like, I like to have some time to process it a little bit before kind of weighing in on things. And so I tried to do that for our volunteers too, and kind of sent them an email and gave them a heads up, like, hey, this is our monthly meeting that we have every month, because that's how monthly meetings work. But this month we're gonna talk about some things that carry a little more weight than usual. Those meetings are always important, but we're gonna talk about some bigger things this month, and here they are. Here's what they are, just to give you a little heads up. And so I think that helped as well. And if they walked into the meeting and they didn't know what was coming, it was their fault, because I told them. I told them what was happening. So I think that helped to not soften the blow, because everybody was excited about it, but they had a chance to get excited about it before the meeting even started. So yeah, I thought that was helpful. Let's see. Oh, I guess one last note on curriculum would be that this school year, my first 2 school years here, this is my 3rd school year here. My first 2 school years here, our Wednesday night teaching content and our Sunday morning discipleship content were connected. They were the same thing every week. This school year, they've been disconnected, and it will remain that way throughout the rest of the school year and probably forevermore. In other words, I don't intend to teach the Gospel Project on Wednesday nights. I like what we're doing on Wednesday nights with like a different series every month on different topics. We're doing expository topical preaching. So I'm really enjoying what we're doing on Wednesday nights. I think it's being well received too. And so I intend to continue doing that on Wednesdays and letting Wednesdays and Sundays be disconnected in terms of content. So that was a question that came up on Sunday morning. But the other change that we talked about with our volunteers Sunday morning was how starting on January 15th, which is a Wednesday, that will be our spring midweek kickoff Wednesday. At the downtown campus, we will start running 2 simultaneous services, one for middle school students, one for high school students. So we are, even this afternoon, I brought my drill and my screwdriver and some nails. Like we're doing some work on another room down the hall from our current student ministry space to build out a second worship space, and that'll be ready, Lord willing, by January 15th. And we are going to start running 2 services. I think some of the details are still being worked out in terms of like, do we start all together for worship and then break? Do we just go ahead and break into 2 worship teams? Who teaches where, all that kind of stuff. But like the strategy and the change is in motion, where we are going to have 2 worship services, one for middle school, one for high school, running at the same time on Wednesday nights, starting on January 15th. And the reason for the change is same reasoning for a content, like our curriculum change on Sunday morning, is I think this change will help us disciple our students better, because it will allow us to be more specialized in our teaching. What I mean by that is like, there's a big difference between a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old. And so if you're teaching to just 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, or if you're teaching to just 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, you're going to teach differently. And so we'll still teach the same series, the same messages, the same outlines, but your explanation, your exegesis interpretation is going to be different. Your illustrations will be different. Your applications will be different depending on who you're teaching to. And being able to specialize that to the age group is really going to help us. So I'm excited about that. I also am of the school of thought that splitting ministries like this is a means to growth. It's not a response to growth. And so there is an element where you have to have critical mass. So you can't be like, I think we may have even talked about this on the podcast before.
It's probably come up.
But you can't be like, we have 5 students, let's split into a middle school and high school ministry. Like, don't do that. And I think the number is different for everybody, but like you got to have some sort of critical mass before you split. But I think oftentimes splitting is viewed as like a response to growth and not as a means to growth, but I would view it as a means to growth. So I think we're well past critical mass. Like, I think we're fine. And we have the staff, we have the volunteers, we have plenty of students. Even based on what I saw last night, I think we're more than ready. But I think what this is going to do is it's going to just pour gasoline on our growth. It's going to help us grow faster and healthier, because we'll have the venues and the programming to sustain the growth. So pretty excited about it. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that move and how we've been communicating it or anything like that.
Oh, you caught me in a yawn. I do have thoughts. They're all positive. I'm excited for the split. It'll be fun for the two of us to be able to take on a series, and still both of us will be able to interact with middle schoolers and high schoolers. Just not all together in one setting for like a sermon, but
Right.
like the hangout time. We do have our high school lounge, but like they're still going to be blended a little bit in hangout time and stuff like that. But I think it'll be good. And I agree with the line of reasoning that like it's a means to growth. Like you split it out. It feels smaller because you have two groups that are not as big as one group together, but you start filling the seats, and that will be. It's going to be fun, man. I'm excited for it. We still got a little bit more work to put in and just some technical things, but it'll be fun delivering those messages.
Yeah, our current, which I think we'll have a better feel for this in like June when we have a semester under our belts. But like our current thought is, I don't even want to call like one room the middle school room, the other room the high school room. I want to call it like, this is worship room north, this is worship room south, and we can put middle schoolers or high schoolers in either room. Like I want to maintain that flexibility. Same with us, like you and I. Like I don't want to be like, I'm the middle school pastor, you're the high school pastor, or I'm the high school pastor, you're the middle school pastor. Like I just want to be like, we're two student pastors at the downtown campus and we can teach in either room. I want to maintain that flexibility as well. And our current thought is like to rotate, but not rotate every week, rotate every series. So like if which this will probably be the case, by the way, like if you take the apologetic series with high schoolers in January and I take the apologetic series with middle schoolers in January, then in February I'll take the dating series with high schoolers and you'll take the dating series with middle schoolers, and we'll just kind of rotate back and forth each month, series to series. And I think that'll work. We'll know better in June, but I think that'll work. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm pretty excited for it.
That sounds good to me. That has been kind of your like example of like, not necessarily this is what's set in stone, but here's an example of how that will be. Is that the way you're thinking? Like I'll start with apologetics with high school, and so you can do dating with high school, or?
I think so. It's not necessarily so that like I can have dating with high school or whatever. But I think like you're really passionate about apologetics, and so
What? I do love it.
I think you
So passionate that I extended it 1 week early to do a fourth one for late night.
It's true, actually. Yeah, it's true. But I think like you will have, especially pulling the middle schoolers out of that room, like you'll have some freedom to go into some deeper areas of apologetics with those high schoolers.
Yeah.
And I can kind of stay at like a more basic level with the middle schoolers and whatever. And then like, yeah, I do have some convictions about dating that I'd love to communicate to high schoolers and whatever. And then March, I think, is about
the book middle school will be easy because I'll just go in each week and say, "You're middle school, don't date."
Yeah. Here's our dating message tonight. Don't do it.
See you next week.
That's basically true. Like, that's my message to middle schoolers, even high schoolers in some ways. Like, just don't. Not actually. Like, we are trying to like our dating series. Man, we'll get into this in February. But like our dating series is like, week 1 is like singleness is okay. Week 2 is like. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. Week 2 is like dating is for marriage. So like kind of holding up marriage in high regard. Week 3 I think is Christians only date Christians. So like, it's very basic principle, but vital principles, because like the world is saying the opposite. Like the world is saying singleness is like a disease. The world is saying that dating's not for marriage, dating's for fun. And it's just, for some other, I don't want to make this too vulgar, but like the world says anything but dating is for marriage. And same with the last one. Like the world says it doesn't matter what your values are. You just date whoever feels good. Yeah. You don't have to, Christians don't have to date Christians. You just, love is love and whatever. But like, it's vital that Christians date Christians and not anybody else. So, anyways, that's our dating series. It's not really like, here's some good pickup lines. It's very basic but vital biblical principles for dating. So, that apply to either age group. But, anyways, so I'm excited for that split. I think that'll be good. I think that will be good.
If you heard of that in the Christian pickup line, hey, you want to come over to my place? My parents are home.
Oh, that's funny. It's like I was reading the book of Numbers the other day and realized I didn't have yours.
Yeah.
Oh man, we'll probably
That's
have to
a
throw
good
some
one.
of those out there. But my name is Will. God's will.
Jesus was risen.
No. I won't use that one. Not a personal fan. All right. Last night. Actually, before we get to last night and kicking off the close call teaching series for the month of December, tell us about last week, December the 4th, in college ministry.
Oh, man. Yeah. That was a First Wednesday prayer night. So once a month, our church does something called First Wednesday prayer. We're on the first Wednesday of the month.
We do some prayer.
Yeah. Can I just keep repeating the same thing? Also called FWP, which stands for First Wednesday prayer. So our three campuses come together in one big worship service where we worship and pray and take communion, the Lord's Supper. And it's a cool chance for our students who, even though it's frustratingly obvious sometimes, but some of our students that don't get much big church experience, as they call it, on Sundays, that come on Wednesdays, get to experience that in a way. And so there's mixed reviews on that because kids can get rowdy, But so without getting too much in the weeds to it, I think we've explained it here before, but college ministry, we're doing the same curriculum as student ministry. Student ministry doesn't meet on First Wednesday prayer nights, but our college ministry still meets afterwards. And so I've brought in just like a guest preacher each month.
Right.
And so we've done that September, October, November, December. So we had 4 guest preachers this semester. And those nights have just been really well received. We kind of go a little bigger. Like we open the doors earlier because First Wednesday prayer ends at like 7. So we open it 30 minutes to an hour earlier if anybody's around. We get Chick-fil-A instead of pizza, which is always fun. And we really promote that we have somebody special coming in, and that person usually is telling their friends and family. And so we always have like an extra amount of new people on those nights. And so last week,
our highest attended nights.
Last week was no exception. We had, I think, like 9 or 10 first-timers last week.
Wow.
We had some people that hadn't been in a while that were buddies with the guy speaking, and they came back, and so we saw some old familiar faces. And, yeah, it's his first time preaching, to my knowledge, and he preached long, but that's okay. Like, it was really good.
I didn't stay.
Yeah.
But I heard he preached, like, really long.
I think it was like an hour and 2 minutes or something like that.
Was it like literally an hour and 2 minutes?
Yeah, like
oh my gosh,
it's not like rounding up from like 48.
Okay, I
he
thought
preached like an hour.
I thought people were rounding up. No, he literally went an hour and 2 minutes. Wow.
So I mean, he desired to cover the life of Joseph.
Wow.
And didn't want to leave much out. And it was really good, honestly.
But I'm sure it was good. We've talked about this too, like your sermon length, and this is good, I guess, for any listener. Like your sermon length is all relative. Like an hour and 2 minutes is like spot on if you're preaching at John MacArthur's church.
Yeah, and
like I'm not even joking. Like if you're filling the pulpit for John MacArthur, like you don't want to go 30 minutes. You got to go an hour because that's what he does.
Yeah,
But here, like if I fill the pulpit for Pastor Cliff, he goes 35, 37 usually. So I try to go 30, 32. Or in student ministry, we go like 20, 25. In college ministry, you go 25, 30, whatever. So if you're a guest preacher, you got to aim for like 25, 30. So it was an hour, which is fine. And I'm confident it was very good. I haven't watched it back yet. But it's not, the hour itself is not bad. It's just like relative to every other week in college ministry, it's like double the time.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's all I have to say.
I usually go
timing.
Maybe even closer to 15, 20. So it was a double, triple kind of night. But yeah, it was well received. We did have numbers on everything, but there's something. We had probably the second most that we've had in the ministry in a year and a half since we took over.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. And just the ministry's like doing great spiritually, not just numerically. The ministry is going great. The series has really helped spark like just really effective conversation. And I've had conversations with students on occasion afterwards about some conviction they've had and some troubles they're going through, that the sermons kind of open up those doors.
Good.
But like our numbers definitely are up. I can probably count easily on one hand how many weeks we've had with no new people. I think it's only 1 or 2 weeks this semester we haven't had a new guest. And so, I love it a lot. And so last week you were asking about was good. But yeah, Paul went through the life of Joseph, and I feel like there was one more thing I was going to say about that. But I encouraged him. Like, I preached. First time ever preaching for me was at late night, 4 years ago or something like that. And I went 45 plus minutes, and like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I kind of thought in my head, I was like, man, it's so good. Like, I'm gonna preach long like that. That means it's gonna be good. And I remember Jamie Weathers encouraging me, at this age range, you might get 15 minutes of attention span. So if you're going 45 minutes, which 15 are they going to pick up on, know?
Sure.
But somebody might be locked in the whole time, and somebody might be lost after 5 minutes every week. And so you can't totally judge those margins. But it was great, man. I love our FWP nights for sure.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, the timing is all contextual. Like when you go, for instance, when you go over to the men's center and teach, which you and I have done a couple times this year, you're asked to teach for an hour.
Yeah.
So you can't walk in there and just teach for 30 minutes. That's not what you're asked to do,
Right.
It's your timing is it's all contextual. So anyways, it's really encouraging. All right, last thing, last night in student ministry and college ministry, speaking of, we started a 2-week series for the month of December called Close Call. A call to follow Jesus is a call to be close to Jesus. So one of the things that came up in our curriculum focus group in June was our students were looking for some series and some teaching on closeness to God, is how they described it, how to grow close to Him, spiritual growth, that kind of thing. And so we took that to heart, and we have a 2-week series this month on spiritual growth. And it's not technically like a Christmas series in terms of we're walking through the birth of Jesus and whatever, but it is Christmassy because this is the season, this is the time of year when we remember how God got close to us when He sent Jesus to take on flesh as a baby. And so it's a good time to talk about how we can get close to Him in return, if you will. And so it's been good. Last night, so the series is kind of broken down into, internally, I don't think I used the words last night, I don't know if you did, but internally, we're breaking it down as week 1 is justification, week 2 is sanctification. Basically is how it's broken down. So how do you get close to God week 1? How do you grow closer to God week 2? And so last night the message was primarily on assurance of salvation. Your salvation is secure. Once you're saved, you're always saved. Because as we talk about spiritual growth, and I told the students this, the middle schoolers and high schoolers this, as we talk about spiritual growth, as you grow in your faith, you're going to make mistakes. You shouldn't try to make mistakes, but they are inevitable along the way. And when you do, don't let the enemy convince you that you've made so many mistakes that you've lost your salvation. That's not possible. And so we worked through John chapter 10, verses 28 through 30. We had 3 points, 1 point based on verse 28, a point based on verse 29, and a point based on verse 30. So a real simple message, just about.
It's nice when it plays out like that.
Yeah, it was great, actually. It's believe in the gospel. Trust in God's grip strength was point number 2. Basically, He's holding on to you, you're not holding on to Him. And then point 3 was invest in your relationship with Jesus. So Jesus said, "I am God." So if you want to grow closer to God, grow closer to Jesus. Invest in your relationship with Jesus. And so it was a really good foundation, I think, for the conversation that we will have next week about how to actually grow in your faith, how to, we've gotten closer to God. We've repented and believed in the gospel. We've got confidence that God's got us. We're not going to lose our salvation. So what do we do now? How do we practically grow in our faith? That'll be next week's conversation. But last night's conversation was a really helpful foundation. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on how it was presented in student ministry or how you taught it in college ministry, if you have any thoughts on that last night.
Yeah, you and I, you know this, but we kind of game plan for these together, and we'll be doing that even more closely as we're splitting middle and high school and trying to teach the same thing, but do it a little bit differently, geared to the audience. But I did it a pretty similar way. I used some similar examples. Instead of like, I talked about, in the repent and believe in the gospel point, I talked about it being a gift, but I didn't quite, you had like a gift, and it was a fun example of like, if I give this to you, you can receive it. I talked, just kind of broke down about like what repentance is and what the gospel is. And so I always try to get a little apologetics in there if I can. Like, you know, it's not, I didn't use the term easy believism, but like people accuse Christianity of like, you can just say some words and then, you know, like it's as if you could trick God, or there's just a password you need to get. So if you say the right phrase, then you have eternity. Like there has to be real, like genuine heart posture there.
Yeah.
And so I talked about that, talked about the security of salvation, talked about Jesus being God, and went a little bit into that too. Like people that, there are people in religions that believe, not just like people that don't care what the Bible says. Like, yeah, the Bible says Jesus is God, but I don't care what the Bible says. Like there's people who believe what the Bible teaches is true and think that the Bible doesn't teach that Jesus is God.
Yeah.
And I've got an awesome book. Oh man, I just kissed the mic on accident. I was so excited. I have a pretty awesome book that I read this year that shows like just such in-depth argumentation from Scripture of when Jesus claims to be God and the deeds that, like the things that he does that show that he's God. It's a deep book, but it's really dope. But I was like just reading this text. He says, "I and the Father are one." He just called the Father God, and then he's like, the Jews pick up stones to kill him for blasphemy because he's making himself God. And so like that, there's so much more than that couple verses for the case for Jesus' deity. But I talked about that for a minute of like, Jesus didn't say, "No, you misunderstood me. That's not what I said." Like they picked up stones to kill him because he said he was God and he got away. So anyways, it was a really good lesson, I think. And I did kind of lean into like this week is justification, next week sanctification. I didn't reference Wicked and say this is part 1 and part 2 is coming out next November.
I didn't either. I forgot about that.
I actually thought about it. It just didn't really flow, so it didn't happen.
No, that's good. I do feel like we're doing a little too much with this series because like Close Call is like a near-death experience really, but then we're saying it's like a phone call. And if you answer the call of Jesus, he's not going to hang up on you. The call's not going to drop. You're on a secure line. We're talking about spiritual growth. I feel like we're doing and there's Christmas everywhere. Like we've said, like we're not having a Christmas party in either ministry this year, but these last 2 midweeks and these last 2 late nights, like Christmas is just going to throw up on them. Like there's going to be Christmas everywhere. So like, I feel like we're doing potentially a little too much, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. But, I think the teaching and the points were clear enough and basic enough that, prayerfully, everyone left with something to think about and apply to their lives. So, I'll have to watch I'll have to watch some game film today. Call me weird, but I always watch all of my sermons back every time and just.
That's not weird. I should start doing that.
Try to learn something every time I preach. But I'll be interested to watch some game film today and like be a listener and kind of see how it sounded as a listener. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm excited for next week. We'll be in John 15 next week, giving them some practical tips for spiritual growth. So.
Also, they loved the video of Eddie Hall.
Yeah.
Been in the frying pan.
Yeah, I
definitely went with that.
Good. Yeah, point number 2 is trusting God's grip strength, because John 10:29 is like the Father's holding on to you and no one can snatch you out of his hands. Like you can't jump out of his hands, whatever. He doesn't have actual hands, but like it's basically the point of like you're not holding on to him, he's holding on to you. You can't work yourself out of something that you didn't work yourself into. And so we talked about grip strength. So I found a video of Eddie Hall, world's strongest man, just rolling a frying pan into a burrito, like just crazy feats of grip strength, and talk about how God's grip strength is stronger than that. So I thought that was fun. It was a fun time. I think it was well received in students as well. So all good. I'm looking forward to next week. But hey, we gotta go do some school outreach at some lunches right now. So we're bumping up against some time constraints here, but some good stuff we talked about today. We'll try to squeeze in a podcast or 2 before the Christmas break here. But as I'm sure is the case in your church and in your family, there's quite a bit going on. So we'll knock out as many podcasts as we can. But it's helpful to Mitch and I just to talk through a few things. Hopefully it's helpful to anyone listening to kind of hear how we're thinking and doing things. And maybe there's some things you can glean along the way. So any closing thoughts from Pastor Mitch?
Oh, no, I'm ready to snag an FA burger.
Yeah, me too.
Just kidding. I was offered one last time, and anyways, I don't love them. I'm pretty hungry. I might take one today, but I declined a free one when I was hungry last time because they don't sit right.
I got you. If they're available, I'm taking them. But
yeah.
If they're not available, then that's my problem. But
if they're not available, you just take them when no one's looking.
No. No.
It's a good closer for a student ministry podcast.
Exactly. Steal
from the school at your church.
Yeah, perfect. This has been another episode of the Effective Student Ministry Podcast. This is Garrett.
This is Mitch.
Until next time.
Peace you later.
Bye.